Welcome, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. You are listening to Gnostic Studies, and we're going to continue our Gnostic Astrology series today with the first of Capricorn. However, before we jump into today's material, we're going to review the previous material. So that's the PDF that you have on your screen there that's available for download on the website. We finished up Sagittarius. Last week it was the 21st, the equinox, or solstice, winter solstice, actually. And the day after, that time sort of symbolizes that change between one season and another, and in this case between Sagittarius and Capricorn. So let's just review Sagittarius because, as we mentioned, the sign is related with religion and philosophy, and the people who are born under this sign have the ability to understand some profound things related with religion and philosophy. And so, since the authentic initiatic path, the path to return to divinity, exists in every religion, it is not unique to one religion, but is taught in every religion, it benefits us to study comparative religion so that we can understand the path. And that initiatic path is also related with hidden things which are considered hidden or secret, which is called occult. People think that occult means black magic, but it means hidden. You can Google it, you can search it, see what the term is, how it's defined. So let's read the summary here. True practical occultism and its terrible magical powers demand the most frightening sanctity, without which it is impossible to face the dangers of alchemy and magic. To speak of sanctity in these times is something very difficult, because the world is full of people who presume that they are already saints. Master Moria said, "To become united with the intimus, the inner being, is very difficult. Out of two who attempt to unite themselves with the inner being, merely one achieves it, because among the rhythms of verse, crime is also hidden. Crime garbs itself as a saint, a martyr, an apostle. Rare are the aspirants who know how to obey the Father who is in secret." The sign of Sagittarius with its famous centaur, right? Remember, the centaur is a half human being, half horse. So the bottom half is the horse, and the top half from the waist of the human being up is a human form. The sign of Sagittarius with its famous centaur is something that should never be forgotten. Sagittarius is symbolized by a man who holds an arrow in one hand, half man and half beast. The horse represents the animal ego, the pluralized I, garbed with its lunar bodies. The I does not have any individuality. It is plural, although each psychological defect is personified by a small I, or ego. The entirety of all our defects is represented by the pluralized I. Everyone who attains the second birth has to solve this serious problem of the dissolution of the lunar ego. The newly born master, right? Because when we achieve the level of master, it means in Gnostic esotericism that we've reached Tiferet. That is, we have the solar astral, solar mental, and solar causal bodies, and therefore we're qualified as the level of master. It's not just because we have a piece of paper or something like that. It's something that occurs internally. So that's why it says the newly born master is garbed with their solar bodies, because we've created the solar bodies through the transmutation of the creative energy. but their ego is still garbed with the lunar bodies. So first we create the solar bodies, then we have to eliminate the lunar bodies. Two paths then open before the newly born master, that of the right and that of the left. On the path of the right tread those masters who work in the dissolution of the lunar ego, the elimination of that. On the path of the left tread those who do not concern themselves with the dissolution of the lunar ego. The masters who do not dissolve the lunar ego become Hanasmussen, a subject with a double center of gravity. This then becomes a master garbed with their solar bodies and lunar ego garbed with its lunar vehicles, constituting a double personality, one half angel and one half beast, like the centaur of Sagittarius. The Hanasmussen has two inner personalities, one of an angel and one of a demon. The Hanasmussen is an abortion of the cosmic mother, a failure. If the Gnostic student dissolves the lunar ego before the second birth, then they are completely cured. They solve their problem ahead of time and secure success for themselves. The dissolution of the lunar ego is fundamental in the great work. Those who attain the second birth feel the necessity of eliminating the lunar bodies, but this is not possible without first having dissolved the lunar ego. The twice born become stagnant in their inner progress when they lack love. Everyone who forgets their Divine Mother becomes stagnant in their inner progress. A lack of love exists when we commit the error of forgetting our Divine Mother. It is impossible to eliminate all those small I, that constitute the lunar ego without the help of the Divine Mother. The comprehension of any defect is fundamental, indispensable, when one wants to eliminate the small I that personifies it. But the work of elimination in itself is impossible without the help of the Divine Mother, because she eliminates the broken bottles. Each small I is a bottle, within which a fraction of the essence is bottled up. This means that the essence, the buddhata, the soul or fraction of the human soul that every intellectual animal has within, has become thousands of little fractions. For example, anger is represented by hundreds or thousands of eyes, each in a bottle, within which the essence is bottled up. All those bottles of anger, all those eyes, live in each of the 49 departments or regions of the subconscious. The comprehension of anger in any subconscious department means breaking a bottle, getting out of the box, we could say, or the bottle, the fixed way of thinking, feeling, or acting, or perceiving even. Then the corresponding fraction of the essence becomes free. When this happens, the Divine Mother intervenes by eliminating the broken bottle, the cadaver of a small shattered I. Each cadaver no longer has within it the essence that it had previously imprisoned, and this cadaver disintegrates little by little in the infernal worlds. The Divine Mother only intervenes in this case when the bottle is shattered, when the essence previously enclosed within it has been liberated. When all the bottles have been broken, then the essence in its totality has been liberated, and the Divine Mother dedicates herself to the elimination of the cadavers. The comprehension of anger in 20 or 30 subconscious regions does not mean that one has comprehended it in all the 49 departments. Those are the 49 departments of the mind. The comprehension of anger in department 3 or 4 means the breaking, shattering of a bottle either in that department. Nonetheless, many eyes of anger, many bottles, can continue in all the other subconscious departments. Each defect processes itself in each of the 49 regions of the subconscious and has many roots. Anger, covetousness, greed, lust, envy, pride, laziness, gluttony have thousands of bottles or small eyes within which the essence is bottled up. When the pluralized I is killed, then the essence unites with the inner being, and the lunar bodies are eliminated during a mystical trance, which lasts 3 days. After the 3 days, the master, garbed with his solar bodies, returns to their physical body. This is the initiatic resurrection. Every resurrected master has solar bodies, but does not have lunar bodies. So it's one thing to be a master, it's another thing to be a resurrected master. Whosoever is dying from moment to moment is subjected to thousands of esoteric tests in each of the 49 subconscious departments of Yaldabaoth, which is the esoteric name for the mind. After coming out victorious from a few departments or regions of the subconscious, many initiates fail in a few departments in certain tests related to a certain psychological defect. Right? So that means we have to continue to work on that defect. If we passed some tests but we failed others, then we need to work where we failed. The Divine Mother and the Kundartiguador or Kundabuffer organ. The Divine Mother always helps us to comprehend when we call upon her. This is very interesting. Sometimes we're trying to comprehend an ego, and what we need to do is pray and ask her to help us. The Divine Mother always helps us to comprehend when we call upon her, when we call upon the flame of the serpent. The Divine Mother prays for us to the White Lodge and eliminates one by one those eyes that have already died. The Divine Mother, the sacred 5-legged cow, is Mother Space, the mother of the spiritual monad, who takes refuge in the eternal nothing all of the ineffable Father, in absolute silence and absolute darkness. Our individual Divine Mother is, in herself, the mother of the inner being, hidden within the monad. If Artemidius Loquia or Neter was Luna in the sky for the Greeks, the chaste Diana on the earth was the Divine Mother presiding over the birth and life of the child, and for the Egyptians it was Hecate in the Inferno, the goddess of death that reigned over sacred magic and spells. Hecate Diana Luna is the triune Divine Mother, while at the same time one, in the fashion of the Hindu Trimurti Brahma Vishnu Shiva. The Divine Mother is Isis, the series of the mysteries of Eleusis, the celestial Venus, she who in the beginning of the world originated the attraction of the sexes and propagated with human generations with eternal fecundity. She is Proserpine, who in her triple appearance, celestial, terrestrial, and infernal, oppresses the terrible demons of the Avernus, keeping the doors of the subterranean prisons closed, and triumphantly traveling the sacred forests. In other times, the human being did not want to live in this world. He had realized his tragic situation. Certain sacred individuals made a mistake and gave the human race the abominable Kundartiguador organ in order for him to become excited by the beauties of this world. Such an organ is the tail of Satan, the sexual fire headed downwards towards the atomic infernos of the lunar ego. When the intellectual animal lost the Kundartiguador organ, the evil consequences remained within each subject. These evil consequences are constituted by the pluralized I, the lunar ego. On the basis of in-depth comprehension and profound inner meditation, we can and should eliminate from ourselves, with the help of our Divine Mother, the evil consequences of the abominable Kundartiguador organ. And thus, with the help of the Divine Mother, we can eliminate the consequences of the abominable Kundartiguador organ. We can eliminate the ego. So that was the material that we covered last week. and we wanted to review it with you. If you have any questions or comments today, please feel free to leave them in the comments area. And now we're going to jump into the material we want to cover today, the Capricorn from Huiracocha's Zodiacal course.
Capricorn 1. The esoteric attributes of the knees and the correspondences of Capricorn. Dear disciple, the knee as a joint to the leg is a truly complicated mechanism if we stick to the formation of its bones, ligaments, etc., which are arranged in a strange and curious way. As for its structure, which seems straightforward, it should be one of the weakest joints, but is enough to observe certain feats performed by athletes in order to figure out the enormous strength and resilience that this pair of our organism has. Ancient and modern drawings describing the magnetic forces place rays in front of the knee as strong as those which are depicted simulating the energy which briskly leaves the hands and the eyes of magnetizers, as if to express with such symbolism that the knee is none other than an excellent magnetic source. We have already described, when speaking of Venus, the liquids in their fluidic and semi-fluidic states. Now we must take note of that rare substance that is found in our knees, which is given the name of synovial fluid. That is to say, syn meaning with, and ovule or ovum meaning egg. Vulgarly, we could say that it is a substance with egg. The egg, on the other hand, we know is a generating vehicle for a given species. This secretion from the wall of the joint capsule not only has as its objective to make the bone surfaces slippery, but it also has the mission of providing some strength to our extremities. Otherwise, if the substance in question only has the mission of making the corresponding bone slide, then it would not be possible to tolerate such great ordeals that athletes are subject to and are constantly exposed to, including unfortunate incidents, but on the contrary, it is a kind of break so that the bones do not move more than they should in the appropriate direction. The synovial membrane of the knee has a special composition that science has not yet discovered, but it is known to those who, like us, are engaged in certain esoteric studies. Among the zodiacal signs, Capricorn is precisely the one that has its action on the knees, and united with it in this action is the planet Saturn. However, Saturn also corresponds to all the bones, which is to say that it corresponds to the whole skeleton, the ear, and secondarily to the stomach and breasts. We have inspected an immense quantity of ancient works in order to see if the old masters have always noticed this strange coincidence that Saturn rules the bones, chest, and stomach, and indeed the observation was made in all its parts. Nonetheless, if we consider the presence of marrow in the bones and the action of the stomach as the main factor of metabolism, then it can give us some light in order to comprehend this connection. The esoteric attributes of Saturn, mythology, and the earthly current. As for trees, cypresses and pines correspond to Saturn. In Germany, and even more so in the Nordic countries, when the cold of winter hits, all the leaves fall from the trees, and there is a peculiar gray tone to the naked woods. But there are exceptions. Cypresses and pines are green and full of freshness, even with the most intense cold, and it is Saturn who, like a great preserver, covers and sustains them in this state. Saturn in Capricorn is the great planet of redemption, and if it is also the genie of death, then death is always the one who gives life as a mysterious resurrection. Jupiter is generous with its forces and bestows, one could say, its beneficial influence upon humans, but its effect is passing. In contrast, all that comes from Saturn is permanent, and all that does not come from Saturn ends, remaining intact in the state of life where death, with its constant unraveling, does not arrive. So we must pass through these forces of Saturn, since only he makes it so that the benefits acquired are durable and will never be extinguished. If our terrestrial currents do not pass through these synovial accumulators, then their effects will not last, since Saturn is time, duration, and his wife is Rhea, Cybele, goddess of the earth, the source from whom everything flows. It is worthwhile to study Greek mythology in terms of the meaning of Rhea as the mother of Ceres, Juno, Neptune, Pluto, and Vesta, and their different denominations like Bora, Dia, Ceres, Dindymania, Ops, Tellus, and especially as the mother of Jupiter and his savior, and as the daughter of Uranus. We must consider here that the forces of nature are hidden in all these denominations of the Greek deities. If we want to give an account of the importance of the knee with its synovial fluid that the magnetic currents of the earth pass through. These currents then pass through all the bones, that is to say, through the marrow of them all, inundating us with magnetic energy. If these same forces and currents pass as though they are from the earth, those which are agitated under the influence of Neptune and Jupiter, then their effects would be very distinct. We need to have previously saturated ourselves in the knee where the lead or weight of Saturn is received. Lead is the metal of Saturn. It is very heavy, and its colloidal state does not penetrate into our organism without being under the impulse of Saturn and without passing through the knee exclusively.
Capricorn, the male goat, and the solar force. Just as Cancer operates during the summer solstice, now the sun in Capricorn also has a special magnetic influence. The symbol of this constellation is a male goat, which reminds us of the male goat of Mendes, always presented as an emblem of black magic, not being more than the same symbol with its same esoteric meaning. On the 25th of December, the Savior of the world is born in a manger, and his ascension to the life, like a male goat, in order to also offer a new life to humanity. I was reading in Alphonse Levy's letters to his student that the term scapegoat comes from when they used to sacrifice a goat and try and magically get everyone's sins or whatever you want to say to go into the goat and sort of get rid of it that way. If only it was so easy, right? Jambalicus tried to prove in his time that all the myths of Apollo, Mars, Mercury, Adonis, Attis, and Osiris were only solar representations, and Aurelian established the same festival of the 25th of December as the feast Natalis Invicti, or of the Sol Invicti, which was later appropriated by the Christians, who then took that time to celebrate the birth of the Nazarene around 354 to 360 years of our era. It's interesting what he's talking about here. So, what is this thing? Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, which is the birthday of the unconquerable sun, is a winter solstice celebration on the 25th of December, dedicated to Helios, a solar divinity. Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun, was the official sun god of the later Roman Empire and a patron of soldiers. So many people say, well, how is this possible? You know, obviously the Christians are copying, but if we do the comparative study of religions, then we understand the solar significance of that time period. And since the sun is the light, we know that the one we call Jesus, who was able to incarnate the Christ, said that he was the light. And so if we start looking at things from a different perspective, if we study a little bit of Gnostic Kabbalah, and we study the language of symbolism so that we can understand deeper, then we see that they're the same messenger, the same teaching, the same doctrine is being presented in different religions, but through symbolism which is particular to each culture and time period. So the solar divinity is the divinity that gives light, right? And that's what we want. In Gnostic terms, that's the awakening of the consciousness, being able to see, to have eyes to see, ears to hear. So, returning to Huiracocha's Zodiacal course. All these are ultimately the same myths, and every one of them refers itself to the solar force that has different modes of expression and of action according to which influence and according to which constellation the king star passed through, and that, as we have proven throughout this present course, is related to the different parts and organs of our body. We are confident that never has any book made known such explanations so clearly as has been done in this course, unless our disciples have read our other works, especially the Gnostic Church, where this intimate solar force is spoken of under the name of Christonic force, that we are trying to acquire, and which has its doors of entry in those 12 zodiacal points of our material self. The exercises of Capricorn are done by moving the knees, especially the right knee, while concentrating the mind on this region. Those who know Masonry can do the movements made by the master when entering into a workshop. Thus, this stepping is really initiatic. Many times the master masons laugh when entering the temple in their degree because of the stunts that they are forced to do over the head of an imaginary coffin, going to the right and another to the left, bending their knees to step over the obstacle. However, these movements are nothing more than a reminiscence of the initiatic gymnastics of the ancient mysteries, into which the Jewish Kabbalists introduced some of their mistakes, and Masonry has still not been able to liberate itself from them. Of course, that's his opinion. In his runic course, he talks about how Masonry is related to runic movements, which is another interesting perspective. The Rosicrucians, who keep these secrets intact, now return to once again give the ancient path. The Masonic master falls under the constellation of Capricorn, whereas the steps he takes to enter into the temple are just a means of facilitating the entry of the potentialities of the cosmic forces into his organism. Okay, so this graphic on the right on the screen is from a Spanish language Masonic text linked here. You can look it up, talks about it here, gives the description here, the steps here, have it explained for you down below. 3 high steps obliquely, as if one is going to pass over some object placed on the floor. First step to the right, starting with the right foot. The second step to the left, starting with the left foot. Third step to the right, starting with the right foot. So we imagine that we're stepping over a coffin. Right? So what did he talk about today? The solar force, right? The Christonic force. And that these things are related to the zodiac because the king star passes through these different, the king star is the sun, passes through these different phases, these different doors, and that those correspond to our body, places on our body, aspects of ourself. not just physical. There's other aspects. What else did he mention? It's about extracting the energies, the forces which are within nature. Right? That's why he recommends that we study the Greek mythology, because he says the forces of nature are hidden in these denominations given to the different aspects of nature. And he talked about Saturn because Saturn, he says, rules the knees and the bones. And Saturn is the planet of birth and death. And we're talking about initiation, right? Initiatic processes, which means to die in ourselves, to eliminate the ego, and to be born, to eliminate the moon and be born in the sun, we could say symbolically. Capricorn is precisely the one that has its action on the knees, and united with it in this action is the planet Saturn. However, Saturn also corresponds to the bones, the skeleton itself, the ear, and secondarily to the stomach and breasts, because those are what give us life, and birth and death are what's between life. Because when we're first born, we need that breast milk, right? And then afterwards, we're nourished without it, with the food we eat. But even when we were first breastfed, we have to process it through the stomach. So it's related to the planet of birth and death, Saturn, whose color is black, but really black and white. And what else does he say? Saturn, like a great preserver, covers and sustains them in this state. He talked about cypresses and pines. I remember some time ago when I was studying Confucianism, interesting Eastern religion, started by Confucius, the one they call Confucius. And he said it's only when the winter comes that we know the pine and the cypress are the last to fade. And this was before I had found Gnosis. And what I remembered was some trees stay green, right? We call them evergreen in English. They stay green during the winter. And those are pines and cypresses. But it's like whenever the winter comes, it's only when the winter comes that we know the pines and the cypresses are the last to fade. It's only when the winter comes, when the difficulties come, do we know who's going to fade and who's going to stand strong. And that's the process of initiation. We have to pass through the ordeals so that we can receive the tests and see if we pass them. We can't be qualified as an adept. We can't pass through the different stages and continue on if we aren't tested. And so all of these things are symbols of that. So the stepping for this Zodiacal exercise. Note that at the end of each step, the feet are together. Heels together is what the graphic shows there. Heels together, step to the right, like as you're stepping over a big thing that's maybe 2 feet high, or 75 centimeters, something like that. Step over it, put your heels together, then step over to the left, heels together, then step back, just like the graphic shows. So that's the exercise to work with the knees, to stimulate the knees, because we're still working with energies that come from below and the energies that come from above that are mixing within our organism, within the temple, within the laboratory of alchemy, which is our human organism. So, and then at the end of the page, we also have the notes that we'll cover next week when we jump into that class. But that's the conclusion of the material that we wanted to cover for you today. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comments area. Somebody says happy that glad that you're still doing these regularly. Happy winter holidays. holy days. We're trying to keep it going. These are the times we want you to have the exercises so you can practice them if that's what you choose to do. Yeah. Hopefully it's useful. We want to invite you to next week's class, same time. And if you don't have any more questions or comments, then we'll end it there. And we'll just say, hey, hope you're having a good holiday, holy day. And we want to wish you a happy new year. And we will always, as usual, we wish you the best in your esoteric work.